Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to hear between me and another comedian regarding comedy and religion. These are conversations I'm calling disorganized religion. God bless, and for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life.
2 months in.
2 months?
Yeah, I'm struggling.
It's not looking so.
It's not good. It's not good.
Believe in it. Be patient.
I'm
Get
trying.
A brush.
Yeah.
Do you have a brush?
I don't.
You should get a brush.
I
That's
need
what
to.
My barber recommended.
Oh, there you
Other
go.
people I know with good facial hair recommended it.
Yeah.
They're like, just brush it out.
You a wax man? Do you wax?
I do wax.
With the wax?
Yeah.
Ah.
I do it. It helps it look fuller.
Interesting.
Especially when it was
I
real
should
skinny.
really invest
Yeah.
in a lot of wax then.
You should get a little bit. There's I got some. It smells nice too. It's got some cedar oil in there.
How manly.
It's very. I think it's got a lumberjack on the top of the tin. That's how you know it's good.
That's amazing.
That's fun. I like that a lot. We can exchange notes then. I'll get some of this.
Yeah, sure. I just bought some mustache scissors today.
That's
how deep I'm leaning into this.
Why did you start growing it?
Why?
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, the answer I tell everybody is out of boredom.
Okay.
And people kind of are like, "Oh, okay," and that's just enough to get people off my back about it.
Yeah.
It's mostly
Sure.
just because, like, who cares? I don't
Right.
know. It's not like I'm in a place where I kind of, I don't need it for like a look or anything.
Right.
I have.
There's no role in the works.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not like auditioning for things where people are like, well, how, we need you to keep that mustache so that way you look
Right.
Integral.
more
to
villainous. Though I did have an agent tell me, if you want to try and make it now in this town, you have to be willing to accept that if you're a white guy, you're going to play a lot of villainous roles for a couple of years.
Hey.
And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll lean into that.
I'll take
that's
it.
fair.
I'm going for serial killer personally.
There you
That's
go.
the
Yeah.
look I really want to hone in
You
on.
can cultivate that. I feel like
I think I'm close.
if you slick the hair back more all
Right.
the way instead of doing the little swoop, if
Right.
you go like a full
Yeah, Swoop says Mormon. The slickback says evil.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
But I was just I really was just like, I just want to change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I know I
that's
can't
fun.
grow a full beard. It gets
Right.
too patchy on the side.
Yeah.
That-
Does it not connect here? Is that the or
No,
you just mean no cheek?
It doesn't get really the cheeks, no, and then like underneath,
Yeah.
like right where it would be.
Yeah.
I could do like a chin strap, sort of,
Yeah.
if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Who wants that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the problem I
bad
face
idea.
as well.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Do you intend to do like a full mustache and goatee, or are you just trying to do
No.
the stash?
Just the stash for now.
Okay.
Um,
Can I tell
yeah.
you one other piece of advice that
Please.
somebody told me?
Please do.
Another mustachioed man was to grow it all out at once.
right. And then shave
it down.
Yeah.
Because it's less jarring if you're just if you're growing everything than if you're just growing the mustache.
Oh, believe me, I know. I let it go for this. Like I shaved, a few days ago, and this is what happened.
Yep.
So this is what we're left with. I'm
It looks
growing
less
a
creepy than about a week ago. If that makes
Does
you
it?
feel-
Oh,
yeah.
good.
It's filling in.
Man,
We'll
see how
I
this
don't feel like
goes.
you're gonna touch me.
Inappropriately.
It looks like you're putting
yeah.
it looks like you're putting effort into it.
We're trying.
So that's good.
I mean,
good.
Yeah.
as much effort as I do into anything else. But yeah, I'm growing it because my wife wanted me to.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
she thought this might be fun. Why don't
Okay.
you try growing a mustache?
That's always the thing when you're in a relationship. The question I've gotten even from people who don't like the mustache, they're like, "Does your
Yeah.
girlfriend like it?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, then you're good."
it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife is tolerating it.
Yeah.
It's led to this new theory I have about how my wife is getting me to a point where she will have sex with me barely. And knows that no other woman would.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like she wants that to that point.
You're getting transitioned into the phase
Of
where you're
tolerance.
unfuckable to everybody else.
Exactly.
And only kind of to her.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's a state. How long have you guys been together for?
9 years.
Yeah, that sounds like that's right around that time of the relationship.
Yeah.
It's life role play.
Yeah. That's right. We're having fun now.
Instead of you guys going to meet up at a bar, you have like a name tag on. You just
Yeah.
look like you actually look like a different person.
Yeah,
and that gets
exactly.
the job done.
Yeah, and feel a little differently too. So
The mustache gives a different energy.
yeah.
People kind of approach you differently when you have a mustache.
Or not at all in my case.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Have you had anybody not recognize you? I mean, it's
no.
pretty early on. So I
Yeah.
would imagine,
Yeah, it's pretty light. Honestly, people are like, they recognize me and then they get close and then they're like, oh, is that a... Are you growing something?
I've
so
been
that's
there.
happened.
Now it's for me. It's in a phase where I have put enough hair in my face.
Sure.
Where people are like, "Oh,
Okay.
so you're going with that, huh?"
You're committed now.
Or they don't recognize me,
Oh, interesting.
and I don't even. And then they sometimes, if it's somebody who it really opens up for if it's like somebody I want to talk to,
Yeah.
versus somebody who I don't want to talk to.
Oh, that's perfect.
Because if it's somebody I want to talk to, I'll be like, "Oh, hey," and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't recognize you with a mustache." And then if it's somebody I don't want to talk to, they just walk on by,
Yeah,
and it's great.
it's a perfect filter.
Yeah.
That's great.
Through life, Groucho Marx glasses.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, welcome. This was the Beard and Mustache Podcast.
We're sponsored by Barbasol
Yeah.
and Harry's subscription service.
Brute and
Yep.
Brute aftershave. Anyhow, you're joining us on Disorganized Religion. I'm your host, Seth Lawrence. As always, we got the disembodied voice of Travis Clyburn.
Peace be with you
That's
And
good.
also with you.
and the force.
He usually goes with something much more blasphemous.
I know.
So this is good.
I'm
We're
trying
starting
to
out
be nice.
slow this year.
After I did your clean show and the old Christian people hated me,
They didn't really hate you.
I know, but they didn't like me.
Well, I think they were just shocked.
I mean, they liked everything else. They were fine with me being a fat redneck lesbian. But
Of
they,
course. That was music to their ears.
You know what it was? It was the first time I'd run into a crowd that were like, "What's wrong with being Pentecostal?" I'm like, I didn't know you people came to comedy shows. That's why I've been talking mad shit about all of you
Oh, man.
for years.
I think you got to perform for the right religious crowds.
Yeah.
Go to Arkansas. They're totally down.
Right.
They don't give a shit.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
they didn't like me.
trying to diversify Travis's repertoire of audience members that he gets along with. Anyhow, I am so excited for our guest today. You've heard now all about his mustache. But he
mustache.
does a lot of stuff at the store. You're very well known in the roast battle world. You perform all over the place. So
I do.
welcome Jay Light
Hi.
to the podcast. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm all excited.
So-
Pet a dog and talk about God.
Let's do it. We'll start with comedy first because that's a more approachable subject. I feel like. How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing comedy for a little bit more than 9 years.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And what got you started?
I had a friend of mine in high school who I was a theater kid in high school, and so there was my senior year, a bunch of us went on a class trip to New York, go see Broadway shows
Sure.
and sort of just fuck around in the city and be 18, 17-year-olds in the city for a minute.
Yeah.
And he bought the comedy Bible.
Oh.
See, God and religion.
Hey.
There you go.
There you go.
On Easter, actually.
Wow.
How fitting.
Look at him.
I went to church and he went to Barnes and Noble. This is back when I was religious, not to mix the two worlds.
Yeah.
He went and got the Comedy Bible by Judy Carter, and it said that he should have a comedy buddy to write jokes with.
Sure.
And so I volunteered because I had never thought about stand-up as like an option, like a hobby or anything even. I was a fan of stand-up. I was the kind of kid who like stayed up late watching Comedy Central, super late at night, watching a lot of like shorties watching shorties, and Insomniac, and turning the volume way down when the Girls Gone Wild commercials would come on. You can always have to tell they got the steel drum music.
And you don't need the music anyway.
And that was really
that's
the
not
era of
Yeah.
the 30-minute Comedy Central Presents were just firing out.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
making a shit ton
I
of
had so
lots
little
of those.
friends in middle school, and I just watched so many of those on
same.
Friday and Saturday nights
Yeah,
instead of going out to the mall with my friends.
Right.
So that was So I was very interested. I really liked
Yeah.
comedy and stand up from a relatively young age, but I just never
But as a
thought about it.
consumer.
Yeah, as a
Yeah.
consumer, I never
Yeah.
thought about it as a performer, producer of it.
Right.
So then when he said, "Oh, I need a comedy buddy," I was like, "Cool, this sounds good. Let's do that." And I continued with it. And he is a car salesman now. Super funny, great dude.
Does he also have a mustache? I hope he does.
He has
Let's
a
just
full
say he
goatee.
does. Oh, there you
Of
go.
course.
I saw him. I saw him
Excellent.
recently.
Yeah.
He's great. He still is one of the sharpest comedy minds I've ever known.
Interesting.
Stand up just wasn't for him.
Yeah.
It's comedy and comedy people. We got it to everybody kind of takes a different form.
Right.
Everybody sort of follows their own thing.
Yeah.
I
and
do feel like, though, a full goatee is I've given up on dreams. You know what I mean?
Really?
I have an older brother. He's got a goatee. I know what he's about. You know what I mean? Once you go the full goatee, you're like,
That's it.
No,
It's the circle of sadness.
I have a job. I'm never leaving it.
It's the Pentagon of responsibility.
There you go.
Exactly.
I gotta make money with this mouth,
Yeah.
and not in the Hollywood way.
In the good, honest way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Selling cars.
Oh my goodness.
So I mean, we were in college and we went to school in different states. He went to school in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to school in this little town in North Carolina.
Where'd you go?
I went to Elon University.
Oh, okay.
And that is right in the middle of the state, so I could go to like Greensboro, Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah.
And we would basically we would Skype every week and talk about whatever new jokes we were working on and workshop shit and run ideas.
Yeah.
Then we both moved to LA at about the same time. And I started working at Flappers.
Yeah.
Flappers?
I worked
good old
over there.
institution.
Katie just got a job at Flappers, so she's...
Oh, she did? Is she serving?
No, she's doing office work and then box office stuff.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Floating her.
I did the box office. Yeah, I was box office manager for a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap.
And then I started working at the Comedy Store right after that. And then
Nice.
I was involved in Roast Battle from almost the beginning.
Nice.
And it's just been a good run. It's been
Yeah.
a good 9-something years.
Oh, that's cool. So how did you get into the Comedy Store? How did you start working there?
The first, I'd never even heard of the Comedy Store before I moved to LA. I started listening to old WTF episodes on my drive over from North Carolina.
Yeah.
And Marin talks about the store a lot, and I wound up listening to a lot of episodes with old store people. So like Don Barris and Kevin Christie were the two ones that I absolutely remember. And he just the way he painted the picture of the place, I was like, oh, this sounds interesting.
Right.
And I went and checked it out when I moved here, and I just felt it's the kind of feeling that you feel drawn to it.
Yeah.
And it's this, and I wanted to work there, but I was also very intimidated by it.
Right.
I just kind of lucked into being in the right place at the right time. I had been working at Flappers for a little while. I'd been looking for a way out. It just I just wasn't having a good time at the job anymore.
Sure.
And somebody who I had met, because the door guys from the store would come and do the mic, and we got to know each other. They're like, oh, yeah, you're the door guy here, and you're from Dallas. I'm from Dallas, blah, 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 and we have your conversations or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I started to go to Potluck because I had Mondays off, and then Roast Battle was a thing that was just getting started, and Frank Castillo, who's one of my best friends, was hanging out at Flappers, and then he was like, hey, you should come help out with this open mic, and then there's this Roast Battle thing that happens at midnight.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'll come to that.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out there, but not as an employee, and then time just kind of worked out. Somebody was like, hey, we had a couple people quit. They're looking for door guys. Do you want to be a door guy?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And I auditioned for Tommy, who was the booker at the time, and he hired me the day after I put in my 2 weeks at Flappers. It was just weird
nice.
timing.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
awesome.
I was the last person he ever hired.
That's great.
So I got that dubious honor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There you go. That's cool.
Yeah.
So where was your first open mic? Was that in North Carolina?
Yes, first open mic was my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
If any of you are math heads out there listening to the podcast, you'll know that that is actually 11 years ago, but I don't count those first 2 years because they're pretty much a wash.
Yeah.
But the first open mic I ever did was my freshman year of college. I did a mixed mic because there's it wasn't really a mixed mic, and there was nobody else doing stand-up at it.
Sure.
It was mostly just people playing terrible acoustic covers of songs.
Was it like a cafe or something like that?
It was at a bar.
On campus?
At an on-campus bar, exactly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a cool bar. It was,
Yeah.
the campus owned it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
very
Wasn't
lame.
it Good Nights, in other words?
No,
Up
it was
in
not a
Raleigh.
Good Nights,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Gotcha.
I did, I did that. I think I did 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't terrible.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But that's all that really matters. I mean, I bombed
Right.
so many times in the I think that first time I did well, the second time I did well, and then the next 7 times after that,
Yeah.
just eating shit
Yeah, sure.
all over North Carolina.
Was it an overconfidence thing, do you think, after the first two going moderately well? third time went in, and was just like, I got this.
No, I think because the thing with the third one went so bad that it made me scared again after being confident. And I was not, at the time I didn't have a car in North Carolina, so I couldn't really drive to go do anything off campus.
Yeah, it's a great mass transit state.
Yeah, you know how they have that L of North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's taking the subway everywhere.
Oh yeah.
But we had nothing. There, it's a desert. Where I was, a cultural desert, and I had an internship in North Carolina, in New York City, my sophomore year, and I still, even though I would look up mics like every day, and I never did any of them. I was just too afraid.
Yeah.
And then
interesting.
By the time I got a car my junior year, I was like, all right, I'm going to actually like try and do this as a thing. And so I drove around and I would go, hit a mic every week or every couple weeks, and I'd start getting booked on shows and stuff. So it just kind of grew from there. Is like, this is something that I could be good at.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And I also was super, I was in a good position in school because I didn't have to take a crazy course load. I just had a lot of credits from high school that had transferred over.
Oh, nice.
So I was just I can basically just take the bare minimum and skate by. And still have time to write material and go up.
Yeah.
I was also the host of my game show. So on campus we had a TV station. So I was the game show host. So I was also
that's awesome.
just trying to write dumb, just dumb performance-y shit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then once people found out that I was a stand-up, in the barest sense of it, at least.
Sure.
On campus, people were like, "Oh yeah, come do this frat party show. Come do this show at the student union. Come, tell jokes at this weird charity event." And that kind of stuff would happen.
Interesting.
How's doing stand up at a frat house? What's that like?
Ooh, it depends. It's good if they like you, if they're in the same frat as you. And if they're not in the same frat as you, then they don't laugh and heckle you the whole time, and you have no choice but to just keep performing.
And take it.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. So what drew you to stand up then? Why did you feel
what you
that was the thing?
Yeah.
I just liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could really put something on it other than I really like there's no one there to save you. I kind of like that it's all on you. I like that you have to do it 100% yourself, basically. Of course, you get help and people will you write with people or people tag your jokes behind the scenes. But on stage, it's just you.
Yeah.
And you don't have, it's just you in the crowd, and it's the most stripped down version of comedy, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's no artifice there necessarily.
Sure.
I mean, you can perform with artifice. You can be a character and have something up.
Yeah.
Of being a persona on stage as you figure out your voice or whatever it is.
Right.
But there really is no wall in the way that sketch or improv has a wall.
Yeah.
And I like writing too. Right now I've started to break into doing some television writing a little bit, and that's fun, but it's just not as satisfying seeing somebody else do a joke that you wrote as it is doing a joke that you wrote and getting the laughs yourself.
I'm
selfish. That's the biggest reason I got into stand-up, because I'm just a selfish narcissist, and I'm entitled.
I stopped doing improv.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put in the work to writing a joke, it would kill me to watch someone else do it, because inevitably I would think they're butchering it. Why are they doing it that way?
That does kill me when that happens.
Yeah.
But, you're also getting paid for that to happen.
Well, sure.
So it just kind of...
It really takes the sting away.
But for the art.
You ever watch Mad Men?
I did not watch it.
There's this great scene in I think it's in the third or the fourth season. There's this episode where Don Draper gets into an argument with Elizabeth Moss's Peggy, I think is her name. Fuck, it's been so long since I've seen that show. Peggy, thank you. So Don and Peggy are working late one night at the office, and they have this whole crazy argument that sort of stretches out the whole episode, and it culminates in like this screaming match of Peggy being like, "You don't appreciate me for what I do," and Don says, "That's what the money is for." And I never understood what that scene meant until I started working as a television writer. Like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
You just have to accept it.
Yeah, that's part of it. Right.
That's what the money's for.
Well, there you go. So you grew up in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So what religion did you come from in Texas?
I grew up mostly Presbyterian Christian.
Okay.
PCUSA. I didn't know that there were multiple Presbyterian branches.
Yeah.
Apparently there are.
So what are the key tenets to Presbyterianism? What separates that from Pentecostal or?
It's not as intense.
Uh-huh.
I grew up around a lot of the more hardcore versions of Christianity. There's a lot of there's Pentecostal religion, Pentecostal Christians. There's a lot of Baptist, a lot of Southern Baptist.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of sort of the non-denominational evangelical Christianity really took a hold in my hometown, at least. There's tons of mega churches. You know, Joel Osteen is sort of like the guy that epitomizes what like non-denominational mega church kind of preaching is.
Yeah.
And
He's got the biggest mega church, right?
Yeah.
Is that why he's so?
But there's just smaller versions of that dotted all around.
We went to
my
Apex
hometown.
in Dayton.
Yep.
Thing's enormous. It's
What's it called? Impact?
It's called Apex.
Apex.
Right,
that's a good one.
Fitting name.
It's a fitting name.
Yeah.
We had
It's
like
the biggest building I've ever seen.
Gateway was a big one.
Uh-huh.
There was I think Compass is one.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's guiding you.
Of course, it's guiding you.
Yeah.
It's guiding you. They
What
also
else do
have
they have? We could guess a bunch
Yeah.
of them. I'm thinking.
we could probably do like a bingo card if you drive through enough towns in the South, see all the church names. But so what sets Presbyterianism apart is it's a branch off of Calvinism, and it's basically a very rules-oriented version and like rules and process.
Uh-huh.
So there's like different leadership positions within the church that sort of it kind of operates in like checks and balances, and then it's not as intense about like overtly at least some of the stuff that like Baptist and Pentecostal and even sort of the non-denominational evangelical stuff is with social issues as far as things like
like abortion,
same-sex
LGBT,
attraction, all of that stuff. It's not really something that you talk about. Like it never came up in my like Sunday school classes or anything.
So they don't even preach like anti that?
No.
Interesting.
They just pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, they just ignore it, right?
Yeah.
What a modern Christian way to be.
It's But so
we know Kevin's gay, but
He's
fine.
fine.
We're
He's
not
just
going to
bad
say
at
anything
football.
about it.
he's fine.
He can still come to the potlucks on Wednesdays.
He can bring his roommate.
Makes a mean pie.
But it's very much to that end. It's also a really it kind of feels detached almost
From just society?
not from society,
Or-
but just sort of from like emotions.
Okay.
In a way, I feel like there was a lot of stuff that happened when I was growing up, in particularly in this series of churches that I went to, where like stuff would happen, but we didn't really know how to address it right. We would sort of address it from like very just like cut and dry sort of.
Right.
What's the best? Like compartmentalization of issues, at least.
Right.
Like, I remember my parents left the Presbyterian church. And we started going to a Methodist mega church kind of vibe.
I was going to say, rule-oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But rule-oriented, and then Methodism is also rule-oriented, but it's more overt, like, no, we don't fuck with the gays.
Right. Right.
Abort.
So they sort of doubled down.
Right. I think they
going.
needed a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Which, to each their own.
Sure. Sure.
But I remember that one of the last things we ever did in the Presbyterian church that we were going to, I was a big youth group kid.
Okay.
And there was a kid in my youth group who killed himself.
Oh, man.
And
did you know him well?
Yeah, he was a friend,
Yeah.
but he moved schools from the one that was close to where we were. He started going to like a math and science magnet in the actual city of Dallas.
Uh-huh.
And so he just kind of we just didn't see him anymore.
Yeah.
And then we found out he had committed suicide. We were like 14 years old.
Man.
And we just didn't really know how to process it.
Sure.
And nobody really brought it up. Because here's the other thing. I brought up earlier in my like faith journey with this church.
Yeah.
You have to do like when you become a member of a church, you got to profess your faith, right?
Sure.
And so when I was going through my profession of faith.
Yeah. What age does this happen?
I was 12.
Okay.
And
I'd say middle school is usually when they.
Yeah, middle school, so
up.
like 7th grade, you know. And I had a suicide attempt.
Oh.
I didn't go like it's pretty lax as far as like I didn't take a bunch of pills and do anything.
Yeah.
But I was in a dark place. I was getting bullied a lot in school.
Yeah.
I felt sort of disconnected from like the friend group of the people in youth group. And I was just in a really bad place.
Yeah.
And I remember this. I got a belt and I put it around my neck. And I was
Man.
like, I'm going to find a place to hang myself.
Wow.
In my house.
You joke about it as Advil, if I recall right.
I think.
Or no?
No. That's somebody else.
That's somebody else.
You might be thinking
so
of
many.
might be thinking of Tom Goss.
No, I'm not thinking of Tom.
Bleep
Goss.
that name out. We're not thinking about anybody else. Because I know Tom has tried to kill himself with Advil, I think. But anyway, but I took it.
Yeah.
And I was like
So you had
ready
the belt.
to go.
Yeah.
And then
Man.
I heard what I was like, something said, don't do it. And so I told that story as like a profession of faith because I understood that to be like the voice of God.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I told that story and like nobody
Because it
reacted.
was. Yeah, no, go ahead.
But that's the other thing too. It's like
No one reacted.
No one reacted
thoughts.
when I told the story.
Interesting.
And it was very strange because I recognize also is like super fucking like selfish and entitled. It's like, why aren't you guys reacting to my story about wanting to kill myself and God stopping me?
Yeah, but I mean,
This is pretty fucking cool, right, guys?
yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like I'm a snotty preteen, hormonal. I'm going through all the shit, so of course this is going to be the thing that like starts me feeling weird.
Yeah.
But I feel like when that happened, where my friend committed suicide later on, it's the same kind of thing where like everybody's obviously very sad,
Right.
and people, you know, we had like a memorial service and all of that was it was a very sad, somber time. And my mom still didn't want to go to it because she didn't like the way that pastor preached. And she didn't think that it would be. And she was actually, I think she surprised herself because the pastor gave a really good sermon.
Yeah.
I guess is that the right word for it? Is it a sermon at a
Sermon,
funeral?
I think so.
Sermon,
I don't know.
eulogy.
Eulogy.
That's more about the person who died,
That's true.
though.
If
Isn't a sermon anytime the pastor's preaching
speaks.
gospel?
I think so.
I think so. But
Yeah.
he
An address.
Yeah. A statement.
he had on his dress and he was and he was talking about, but he said he was like, there's a lot of people across like different in Christianity who will say that like suicide is
he's going to hell.
He's going to hell.
Right.
And I think that it is wrong from a moral perspective to believe in a God that will judge somebody based off of their final act, especially if it's an act that came out of like pain.
Yeah.
And so
That's what he preached.
That's what he preached.
Got it.
And so we were
Actually,
both.
sounds incredibly reasonable.
I mean,
It was, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. Presbyterians are largely pretty reasonable.
Sure.
So we both were like, I was like, that's great, and my mom was
fine.
like,
That's
my
wrong.
mom was like, he did it right.
Oh, okay.
My mom was very happy about that.
Yeah.
Or I mean, as happy as you can be when you're talking about a 14-year-old killing themselves. But
Absolutely.
you got the gist.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
started after that, around that time, going to this big Methodist megachurch.
Uh-huh.
I was feeling more disconnected from that anyway. I was starting to hang out with the different people at my school and feeling more in the theatery crowd and less in the churchy crowd.
Yeah.
And I sort of started to like split, and like my mom didn't make me go to church every week anymore, and just kind of fell out from there.
Sure.
But that, like, there's still times when it comes back. Like, I can probably guess that there's going to be somebody in my family, probably my mom, who might listen to this podcast episode and be like, why are you talking about God and religion and stuff?
Yeah.
And bringing me into that. And it's the thing. It's like, I'm not doing it to like denigrate you or like make anybody upset.
Yeah.
It's just I'm saying what happened.
Yeah.
I'm saying my own experience.
Well, I don't
That's
get the
all it
sense, Mrs. Light, that you
Thank
are
you.
blaming her
Thank you,
or
sir.
anyone else. It sounds like
No.
circumstances.
It's circumstances, and ultimately, this is the thing that like where I'm at now is like I have come to a position in my own life, where I don't ascribe to like a specific religion necessarily, but I have achieved a spiritual growth that was something that I had shunned and thought wasn't a necessary part of my life. I attribute some of that to working a 12-step program for being sober, which I have a little bit, about 4.5 years. Those
Congratulations.
are all, thank you.
Yeah.
Those are all big spiritual things, but like, that's the kind of stuff that like I had thrown around earlier. Like I didn't even want anything to do with that because I thought that that was going to be the thing that got me. Like I had friends of mine who were like hardcore atheist agnostics. And
sinners.
Like exactly. Going to hell, devils.
Reasonable friends.
But that's the thing. It's like I just wanted people to like me, and I just wanted to be cool
fit in and
fit in. And so I just was at that point like I always sort of felt like I would be, even before I was like cognizant of the role that religion was having in my life and be in that set of beliefs. I always just wanted to be the cool kid. I always just wanted people to like me, and that led me to doing bad things to myself, where I'd like put myself in bad situations with people who were not actually my friends. So in the fight against those beliefs and the backlash personally that I went through, and sort of that like the spiritual and emotional whiplash of all that led me to continue to behave like that. And act in a way where I'm not being the version of myself that is the most true.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, we're comics. We're people pleasers. Sometimes it's hard not to want to make people happy, even if they suck.
Which is interesting, though, because I think a lot of comedians need to say what is not popular. Right?
I mean, isn't that inherently kind of to make your other comic friends happy?
See, that's
way?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
I never agree with those. I've heard people get on stage and say they think stand-up's the most selfish thing you can do, and I'm like, I don't agree with that. I think sometimes it's the most selfless thing because you're almost like, hey, I'm great, be my friend. Help.
Yeah. Well, stand-up kind of is. It's interesting since I've had this sort of like different approach to spirituality and not come from it from a place of like a specific religious point of view.
One idea of God.
Right. Yeah. Now it's like, the whole point of AA and any other 12-step programs is like you develop your own concept of a higher power and you develop your own concept of a God.
Sure.
So it's just like, cool, I'm just going to make up whatever the fuck I want to and make that work for me. But having that approach, I have this perspective now of like stand-up is an act of service. Like
I've always looked at it like that.
Yeah.
I feel like the best comics do. They're like, I want to make this room laugh.
Yeah.
Even if it's kind of for me, it's also for them.
Right. I'm sure to bring joy to these people.
Yeah. I think it's a connection. That's what we're all after.
And that's why like the biggest thing that always bothered me with like LA open mics is you get these selfish people who I'm like, why are you doing this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or the room killer people. You know what I mean? People are just like,
I'm going to say some
they don't
crazy
like
stuff.
me. Yeah. I'm saying what the stuff that matters, man.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Yeah, there's a difference between like being contrarian and just to be contrarian. Right. Or being like having an opinion that you understand that is understand and well thought out that is not necessarily the normal opinion to have.
Right.
I think that's why people who are contrarian for the sake of contrarian, those people always bomb because like subconsciously the audience goes, this guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
But the people who really like, no, I feel this.
Yeah.
Even if it's messed up.
Yeah.
This is how I feel.
Mm-hmm. The depth and
do
sincerity tends to come out.
Yeah.
And I guess what I meant really by the contrarian point is persona. I feel like when you have your persona, or as you're developing your persona, it becomes more believable, more relatable when you do state a contrary opinion to what's popular, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think
as long as you believe it.
As long as you believe it,
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that especially from Roast Battle, right? Roast Battle is the thing that the show that from the furthest of like what I desire, right? Is like if I spent so much of my life trying to get people to like me, Roast Battle is not the show to do that, because Roast Battle is literally just saying the meanest things you can possibly think of.
I think it's why I've never given it a go or done a roast, because I'm like, I don't even mean to anybody. Like,
right.
But you still have to be likable for it to land.
Right.
I mean, yeah, kind of. But now the show's evolved to this point where it's almost like pro wrestling, where like there are people who are playing parts
Yeah,
within
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And it's a even more condensed down version of what stand-up can be.
Right.
Because it's like the stand-up of it, but also you're playing a character. But I don't know. Like I said, it's like it's condensed. You know, people have always who've done both. They always say that like regular stand-up and doing a roast battle, regular stand-up, like the high you get from having a good set, it's just like, oh, this is great. Right. But the high you get from like killing in a roast battle, it's that's what you suck dick behind a dumpster for. You know, that's for that.
That's awesome.
That's what you put that mouth to work for in the Hollywood way.
Right. There you go.
But that's the thing. It's like if I spent my whole life doing the thing that I would want people to like me and not have a bad opinion of me, I probably would have never stepped into roast battle.
Sure.
Right.
I would have been too afraid. I would have been too worried. And I would have probably hung out with people who would be like talking shit about roast battle and people running jokes at open mics instead of like actually, I'm going to go recognize like, these people are writing new jokes. And trying them out. It might not be like jokes that they're ever going to use again outside of this battle, but it's like, I understand the work that you're doing.
Yeah. They're exercising a very important muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would have been the person who is shitting on that.
Right.
Just because I'm like, this is
you think kind of while being envious of them.
Oh, for
doing
sure.
It? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So where have you landed on God now? What is your spiritual or religious outlook?
Well, I don't have a fight to pick with religion anymore. At least individual people.
Oh, come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I try to look at people as individuals and not as a group, because like really, I have a problem with.
That's exhausting, though.
Religion is a big thing.
Broad generalizations. That's what
so much easier.
Sweeping assumptions.
Right. Yeah. It's so easy to say.
It's so easy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
These Christians. I was going to say.
Oh,
these
you
Muslims,
went with those?
But I'm white,
all right.
And I don't want to be that much of a villain yet. These Baha'i faith people. What can I make fun of?
The Hare Krishnas. Go for it. No.
These Jehovah's Witnesses.
There you go. You can pick on my people. Go for the Mormons. No.
Oh,
whatever.
You Mormons. Yeah. You pesky Mormons. These filthy Mennonites. Fucking up our communities with their sorghum mills and their beards.
Sorghum.
No, I understand you're not out to get anybody.
But I don't like religion, but I do like the idea that there's something that we can't explain.
Sure.
That maybe doesn't have like control over any aspect of our lives.
Okay.
But there's something there that we can't explain, that there's just stuff that you just got to give it up to.
Interesting.
You ever heard deism?
Yeah.
Was it so familiar?
Deism is this essentially the idea of God as a watchmaker. Yeah. So the tenet of it is like
a lot of the founding fathers were deists.
So it's old school.
Very old school. It's like
so many new
Jefferson,
things popping up. I didn't know if that was something to do with crystals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Really?
No.
You got to be a 4th level Taurus in order to hop into deism.
Did your jade egg in you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the idea that God is basically put the universe in motion, then just like let it go.
Right.
Okay.
And I like that idea from like, if we're talking from like a grand perspective.
Sure.
So there is no control. It's almost just like, let's see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that
seems reasonable.
I think that there's, as far as from like, not just on a macro level, if we're going to boil it down a little bit, we're going to go down the funnel a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that there's a reason that all of us are here individually, and there are things that we can do that put us more in alignment with like what we should be doing as people.
Yeah.
This is all cribbed from like AA text,
Sure,
and meditation books that I've read,
Uh-huh.
and Artist's Way, and all of these other things that I've picked up on since being open again to like the idea of a spiritual aspect of my life.
Gotcha.
And I look at the thing I like in the Artist's Way, which is very 12-steppy. If nobody's ever done it before,
I have not.
It talks a lot about like you should read the Alcoholics Anonymous big book and the Al-Anon big. I'm like, interesting. I had no idea, but there's a lot of parallels. But the thing that I liked about that, especially when I was developing my concept of a higher power per AA stuff, was like they in the book of the Artist's Way. What's her name? Julia Cameron. She says if you have trouble like understanding God, which I did,
Sure.
don't look at it as anything big. Just look at it as the path. And if you feel drawn to like the path, that's the direction. It's good, orderly direction.
Got it.
So that's the way I kind of look at it. Is like if I feel like I'm drawn towards something where I'm like helping people out and not being a shithead, then I'm going towards God.
Right.
Acronym style.
Right.
And if I'm doing something where I don't feel in alignment with that, then it's like, oh, I should probably course correct.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we don't have free will. I think that that's silly. I think we totally do have free will.
Right.
But there's, ways you can fuck up your life.
Sure.
And I think not following the thing that you feel drawn to and the thing that like you feel fit, like you feel like you're supposed to be doing this thing.
Yeah.
Instead of making a conscious choice to not do that thing. I think that is
interesting.
That's how I perceive God to interact in everyday life.
Yeah. Which seems like a parallel to your own self-discovery of like, I don't want to be a people pleaser always.
Right.
I want to do what I find good, and if that makes other people happy, that's even better.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't have to worry. I don't want to be a chameleon. I think that's the end of the day is like really what it is. It's like I don't get the joy out of changing who I am constantly to like fit other people's needs.
Right.
I would rather just be me, and then if the people like that, cool. If they don't, then that's also fine. Like it doesn't. It might hurt my feelings a little bit,
Sure,
but it's not that big of a fucking deal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, they're not really hurting me as a person, and they're not hurting my chances to do anything.
Right.
Which is the other thing I like about stand-up is that no one can make you quit.
Yeah.
Even though many should.
Even though many should. For sure.
No, but that is a perfect summary. It's a perfect summary of what makes stand-up so beautiful and personal at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, just from my experience at the Fourth Wall NoHo working there, I would say the shit people sometimes make me a better stand-up. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need terrible to see what's good.
Yeah. To appreciate.
Or just be like, wow, I can't believe someone thought to do something that was that bad.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm never going to do that.
We're all grateful for them.
I could never. It's kind of jokes. There's sometimes people tell a joke that you're like, man, I wish I thought of that. And then sometimes people tell a joke they're like, oh, I'm so glad I never thought of that.
Yeah. Or I thought of it and never did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I'm glad my gut instinct to not ever say those words was correct.
Yeah.
God's just your gut.
Yeah.
God and gut.
There you go. Well, thanks so much, Jay. I want to give you one chance to ask me a question about Mormonism if you've at all thought about it, or if you have any
I haven't
bones
thought about
to pick
Mormonism
with it.
in a while.
Yeah. And then we'll let you plug all the
What's the
stuff you
deal
wanna
with
plug.
Mormonism?
Is that what you did on the soundboard?
No, that was just me.
That's a good drop.
I want to have that. That's going to be your new end segment.
That's fun.
What's the deal with Mormonism?
Yeah, that's the new segment. That's the
My
new
shitty
segment.
Seinfeld.
I love it.
I'm gonna ask you this because I don't. This is one of the things about Mormonism that I don't really know about.
Sure.
Everybody talks about Mormons having multiple wives.
Oh yeah.
What's the basis for
What's
that?
the deal with that?
What's the deal with polygamy?
all these wives?
And the only reason I would say it comes up because I saw that they're trying to decriminalize it again
Yeah, I
in
just
Utah.
saw this article.
Yeah.
Who's trying to?
Thank goodness.
I
The
mean,
Utah
obviously-
legislature.
The Mormons.
Oh, well,
The-
but I mean, I didn't know if there was like a sect in Mormonism that are like, we need more witches.
There
The
is-
cool Mormons.
Yeah, right.
The dope young
The Mormons who are
Right.
fucking. It's just polyamory polyamorous Mormons, and they're like, let's change our polycules into.
Yeah, because you guys are super
godly
anti-premarital.
I think it's the police
Let's
department.
get all in our special underwear together.
I think it's the police department in Utah being like, we're sick of chasing these people. Let's just legalize it and call it good. The basis, I mean, so from my religious standpoint, currently no longer practiced in mainstream Latter-day Saint faith.
Right.
And it hasn't been for, I don't know, hundreds of years.
You only hear about it in Mormon cults now.
Yeah, right.
There's like sects that went to Mexico, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, in all fairness, Joseph Smith practiced it. Brigham Young practiced it. A lot of the sort of restoration prophets practiced it. And their claim was that God had commanded them to do it, that it was part of, and there are a lot of Latter-day Saint apologists that explain, well, there are a few reasons. One was sort of this test of faith, right? This Abrahamic test of faith, where these were all from Puritan sort of backgrounds, these gentlemen, right?
Interesting. Yeah, instead of killing your son, it's fucking another
Take
woman.
another woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And see how that works out.
Huh.
So there's that theory, right? That apologist line. The other is this idea of population growth.
That was the thing that came to
Mormons
mind.
neaded more people.
Yeah.
So
genetic variants and stuff like that.
And then there's this more spiritual side of it where our heaven and exaltation, sort of the highest level of heaven, is achieved only through marriage. And that their understanding of the restored gospel was that you had to be married in order to make it there. And so when there were women who were single sisters or their husbands had already passed away without going through the sealing ceremony, they said, well, let's just cover our bases and we'll perform these marriages so that they have access to it in the afterlife.
Interesting.
So those are sort of the theories as to why it was.
What's the sealing process?
Why it was done. That's what we do in our temples. It's coupled with marriage. So we perform a marriage in our temple.
Right.
And then along with that ceremony, we go through what we call a sealing.
Also known as a filling the hole ceremony.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if that
marriage,
was sex
baby.
stuff.
Yeah.
Opposite of the roof. Opposite of the floor. The floor ceremony.
Raise the ceiling.
So that's, and that seems like it's sort of all, because I've heard the other, the baptizing babies in Mormon, right? Is that a thing?
No, we don't baptize
christened.
babies.
That was
Or like unbaptized babies or something, or I don't even know what I'm thinking.
No, we baptize
Catholics
8-year-olds
don't
and
like
up.
the unbaptized babies.
Yeah,
okay.
Catholics baptize babies.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
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 And
The little
Pentecostals, I was
sprinkling
baptized.
on the
I got
forehead.
baptized as a baby. I'm thinking baptizing
But we
unbaptized children, or like converting them after the fact to
we
something.
baptize for the dead. That's probably
what
the
it
weird
is. That's
thing
what I'm thinking of.
You're thinking of
Dead babies.
You just
dead people. Yeah. We don't restrict it to just babies.
Yeah. Well, why would
Yeah.
you? That's discriminatory.
No. I mean, we tried to baptize a bunch of Jews, the Holocaust victims, and got in trouble from the Jewish church about that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had to stop doing it anyway for Holocaust victims.
Fun facts.
Yeah. So
Fun
clearly the
Holocaust
Jews know that
facts.
what we do is real. That's the way I think we should take it.
Get out of here, Mormons.
Scoreboard.
But anyway, yeah. So that's the short answer.
Okay.
I mean, the real claim to fame, right, is that Solomon practiced it. Right. A lot of biblical prophets practiced polygamy.
Sounds about right.
So it's sort of like, well, it's not out of left field that Joseph Smith would have thought about this and wondered about it.
Okay.
But anyway, that's the deal.
That's
Yeah.
a very good answer.
Yeah.
That's the
So there
deal
you go.
with Mormonism.
That's the deal. I love this. I love this segment. Anything you want to plug, Jay, before we close out here? This will release in probably a couple weeks. Just
Okay,
so
cool. Well, I have social medias that have all like show dates and stuff at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram.
Beautiful.
And I have an album coming out soon. Release date still figuring
what
that
kind
out.
of music do you? No, I'm just kidding.
I actually had somebody the other day. They were like, "I didn't know you played guitar," and I'm like, "No,
God damn
it's
it.
stand-up comedy." But it's a fun album.
Yeah.
Stand-up roast battles
Nice.
on there. I've got some sketches on there. Coach T from Roast Battle produced it, so that'll be coming out
cool.
soon.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes peeled on the socials for that. And then I have a podcast called Blockbusting.
Excellent.
You can listen to wherever podcasts are found if you like movies and you like hearing people talk about why they don't like movies.
There you go. Very fun. Very fun podcast. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Anything you got going on, Travis?
My 30th birthday is March 21st. If this comes out before then, and I think at the Fourth Wall Cafe, I was going to do 30 on my 30. So
Hey,
Nice.
that's
be
fun.
There you go.
and I will be hammered. So I don't think it'll be a productive 30
luck.
minutes. But
Hey, do you want me to film it for you and send it to you?
yeah, exactly. You mean blackmail me?
I will say this.
Maybe?
The one I didn't even cover this. The one set that I did that was like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing comedy forever after
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I did on the beach in France. I was there as like
wow.
an internship, and I was everybody at the end of my program. I was like, they were like, you do stand up, and I was like, nah. And then I did I was like, I'm gonna do stand up.
Yeah.
I was super hammered,
Yeah.
and I did like 15 minutes on a beach, and everybody was like, that was great. And I was like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. And then a couple of years later, I found somebody had taped it, and I'm literally like incomprehensible. You cannot understand a goddamn word I'm saying.
That's amazing.
So
That's hilarious.
It could happen to you.
There you go.
We'll see.
There you go. Well, thanks so much, Jay. Really appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week.